I love we're talking about the Good Sam family. Of course, if you're going to be a part of the RV family, the Camping World Gander Outdoor RV and Outdoor family, then you got to be a member of the Good Sam family. I mean, protect, travel, connect, that's what it's all about. And they were talking about pet care. I love that. Yeah. We got pets everywhere.
Covers everything, keeps it simple. Guys, we're excited. We got a giveaway right now that we wanted to jump in and announce. As all the giveaways, what we're giving away, as you can see, this one, 49cc scooter, power sport here. Yeah, right? Comfy.
This thing is awesome. We've been having so much fun with these vehicles, and we're giving away over $250,000 worth of prizes in the next couple of weeks. And you need to be a part of that by texting URVS, Ultimate RV Show, 46642. It's that simple. Who is our winner there?
All right, our winner is Gary McMail.
Gary McMail, you are going to be sitting right here where I am, and you're going to have a big smile on your face, and you are going to be loving what you just won. This thing is absolutely amazing and so fun. Bryce, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to the Coleman Rover Sport. Actually, we've got Keith Sims. He's our influencer. That's right, with the Soulful RV family coming up right now. Let's take a look at this video.
I'm Keith Sims, and this is my lovely wife, Tia Sims. We homeschool our boys, and we travel around the United States as part of that homeschool, enjoying this great country and educating our boys, having fun.
Bingo! Bingo!
Well, I'm a retired professional football player, and when I retired, my wife here had this brilliant idea that we travel around and see the country and homeschool our boys. Coming from professional football where you travel a lot, you get used to hotels and airplanes and all those things. When she came up with the idea of RV travel, I gotta be honest, I was a little hesitant. I was a little concerned about being a large man in a small space with 3 little boys and my wife.
Careful.
But eventually, I came around to recognize how great it was for the family. It truly brought us closer together. It brought our boys closer together. I realized and recognized that even though I traveled all around the country, I really didn't get a chance to see most of this country. I didn't get a chance to experience some of the best things out here in the United States. I didn't get a chance to walk around and hike and explore towns. So you wore me down. I will say thank you, honey. You wore me down. And I recognized that this was not only good for our family, but it's really good for me as well. It brought me closer to my family. It took that time where I was away. Now they're with me, so I don't have to be away from them even though I'm working and on the road.
It has definitely turned out to be quite a blessing. Our boys have gotten much closer as siblings, and the fact that we're able to keep them around us 24/7 has given us a better feeling of who our boys are and where they're going as young men.
Homeschooling on the road is not always easy. I gotta be honest with you, it's probably the most rewarding job I've ever had. To see them and their faces light up and just be eager about learning. And it makes our job easy sometimes. We sit back and we're amazed sometimes. We might take them to a science center and they just can't wait. They're running up to the door and they could spend all day there.
Science!
But what we're seeing in our kids through homeschooling and travel, like this learning is really becoming ingrained as part of their soul.
My name is Keith Sims Jr. I like homeschooling RV because I can travel at the same time doing school. I get to see new places where once I get kids, I can show them.
We're here in Albany, Georgia, Cheetah Animal Park and Campground. And we're here because we're spending a couple days exploring the zoo, visiting family, just getting out in nature.
We're camping here at the campground, and there's a zoo attached, which has our kids totally enthralled.
It really enhances the boys and their homeschooling. Getting an opportunity to go out and see the animals up close and personal and really learn a lot about the animals.
Boys have had a blast here. We're extremely blessed to be able to bring the boys out on field trips and include that into our homeschooling curriculum.
I think one of the things that we've learned with homeschooling, it opens up opportunities like this to add to our travel, but at the same time add to their education.
And I just want to offer them a love of learning, and I think this lifestyle, traveling, gives them the greater opportunity for that love of learning.
Today's experience was, had no clue it was going to impact us the way it did. We had an opportunity to feed a rhinoceros. And you've seen them in books, you've seen them in movies. But to be up close and personal and feed that 2,000-pound animal.
Blew my mind. Totally made our trip.
Got a chance to go to the Albany Civil Rights Center, a place we had never been. We researched it online and found it was a key cog in the civil rights movement. And we were kind of blown away by what we learned. We learn as much as our kids do during homeschool. You know, going to this center today and recognizing that it was a huge catalyst in the civil rights movement, and that a lot of the principles that were used successfully started here in Albany, Georgia.
That was awesome because we have been studying that, and that's part of our history curriculum. So the kids got to learn firsthand from some people that actually lived in this area. I think that the way that we're doing homeschooling and bringing in those museums, that it brings the books to life. There's no way that I could have given them the information, or the information would have even come across to them the way I wanted it to, just reading it off of a piece of paper. Going to the museum, actually getting to see the artifacts that were used during that time, I think really hit home for them. I know it did for me. Now I've talked to my friends and family about this, and they've seen what we do now. And at first they were very not supportive. They thought we were actually crazy for wanting to go out camping. I think they didn't understand what camping really meant, especially in an RV. But now they've kind of caught the bug, and they're coming along with us on certain trips, and some of them have actually purchased campers since we've started going out on the road. So I think this is a bit of a contagious experience.
Home is where you park it. For us, wherever we take our bus, as long as we're together, doesn't matter where we are. That's home. That's where our family is.
If you're just thinking about it, if you're curious about it, go ahead and try it. You might surprise yourself. You might not want to go back home.
Take this time. Don't let it escape you. Because at the end of the day, what we've discovered, it's not about things. It's about memories. It's about experiences. That's what you will cherish later in life. Those memories last forever.
Sean Parham here with Caleb, Tiffany, of course, us, the Remingtons, and we've got some special guests because this is one of my favorite parts of the entire RV Show National Tour each week, where we actually do an influencer pick, and we have got the Soulful RV family. Keith is with us, his beautiful wife, Tia. You've seen them before, all over your screens. You know them. Keith, we know that Tia's a little busy right now, too, right?
Yeah, she's upstairs homeschooling the boys right now, so she sent me down to do the dirty work and have some fun talking to you folks.
The dirty work. Well, listen, we know you guys live the lifestyle, but I want to talk about you being an NFL football player. Any professional athlete, when you start to travel for your teams and go each week to different places, it's got to be hard on your family, and you took it to a whole new level and got smart. How long did it take you to get your family on the road?
Well, it seems like forever that we've been traveling in the RV, because once you get into this lifestyle, it's hard to remember what life without an RV was like. But we've been RVing for about almost 7 years now. Wow. And I wish that I had known how great this lifestyle would have been when I was playing in the NFL, because yes, I had the pleasure of traveling all around the country and even parts of the world to play football. But when we traveled, we saw the inside of an airplane, we saw the inside of a football stadium, we saw the inside of a hotel, and that's all we really got to see. So when my wife hammered me to try to get into RVing, one of her things was, now you get an opportunity to see the country.
That's absolutely incredible. I love that. Now, did you have any influence with your teammates on trying to get their families out on the road too?
You know, what's interesting is now that I'm retired and people have followed some of our adventures, I have gotten many calls from guys who I played with. Even our old Dolphin quarterback, who's now with the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, he gave me a call because he wanted to get an RV and tour the country. So I think people's minds have definitely opened up to the idea now of RVing.
Yeah, and the greatest thing about it is it's the safest way to travel. Yeah. And you have 5 kids, 2 that have been in college, but you're touring. When you guys go out and you see this great nation of ours, you go out with your 3 kids and do a little homeschooling in the RV there?
Absolutely. We definitely pair our travels with road schooling the kids. And a lot of times we set our agenda based on things we are studying. For example, the pandemic really disrupted everyone's travel in 2020. Sure. We understand that. But I actually took, just the boys and I took 2 great science trips. We were studying, the solar system and space. So I took them over to the Huntsville Space and Rocket Center, and we had a 4-day trip over there. It was fantastic. Touring the center, social distancing and masks, of course, yes. But we got a great opportunity for those boys to really see and feel and touch the things that they were learning about. We also took a trip to what's known as the Little Grand Canyon, Providence Canyon of Georgia. We studied the geology of the state of Georgia, and this is a canyon that was built 200 feet deep through erosion and poor farming techniques. For them to study it and then go see the rock layers themselves and walk down into the caverns and hike it. It was amazing. I mean, one of the things people don't understand is when you homeschool, and this is what my wife and I love about it, is we get to learn and experience these things just as much as the kids do.
Absolutely. I love that. No better way than hands-on learning. I think you guys just started your own curriculum, and I want a part of it. I love it.
I love it.
But take me back 7 years when you guys are first trying to get into RVing. What were some of the things that you were looking for in your first rig?
Well, first of all, I totally blame my wife for getting us in this.
That's how it naturally always goes.
I blame her, but then I've got to give her all the credit in the world since we love it so much. We were going to RV shows at her bequest, and she was taking me to different RVs. And I'm a big guy, and I was a lot bigger then. I was 300 pounds. I'm 6'3". And looking at RVs, I had in my mind, like a lot of people, I wouldn't be able to fit. And the idea of trying to squeeze in this tiny little space, I just didn't see it. So we went to show after show after show. And she took advantage of an opportunity. When I retired, I ended up doing radio and TV work for the Miami Dolphins. And we had sold our house in Florida. We're moving to Georgia to be closer to my family. And I needed a place to stay during game weeks. So she said, hey, let's get an RV, and then we can use it in the off season, and you can use it during the season to stay in instead of hotels. So that's kind of how we got into it. But some of the things that I definitely wanted to look for in my RV was I needed a shower, a big shower. And I wanted I want to say want, but it was definitely a need. I needed a king-size bed. So those were my 2 non-negotiables.
I love that.
That's probably why we gravitated to a Class A, was because we could find those things a lot easier than other types of RVs.
Yeah, and you've been in a Class A now for 7 years, is that right? Now you guys, and you love taking this thing out now. It's a complete opposite. So you blame your wife for getting you in, but you also have to give her, like you said, all the credit, because I know by what you guys do, we watch your videos, we see what you guys do as a family. You just look like it's so second nature now and so natural for you.
Well, it truly has become that way. I mean, it can be intimidating at first. And like I tell everyone who asks me, how do you drive a 43-foot bus with a Suburban in tow? And I'm like, you know what? My wife drives half the time. It's not that hard. It's just a matter of learning it, getting to know your rig, practicing a little bit like anything, and then you get your confidence built up. But right now we can take it anyway. I'm more scared of maybe like towing a trailer than I would be driving a Class A, because like you said, it's become second nature for both of us to drive our rig.
And we've said it before, the Class A's, the turn radius is amazing, and you sit a lot higher, and you don't have the blind spots in the back. So as you're saying, yes, it looks bigger and it looks intimidating at first, but once you get behind the wheel, I think it's that confidence adjustment, and you kind of just have to do it and experience it before you really let that fear sit in. Now, I do have a question. Is the Class A something that you're going to continue on moving forward for the rest of, your RVing time? Or are you guys looking to get something even bigger or smaller, a trailer, a fifth wheel, a Class C?
The answer to those questions are yes, 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 yes. We love our Class A, and I don't want to get rid of it, because when we're on our extended trips, a month or two or longer, there's nothing like having that space and all the amenities of the Class A. But being in the RV lifestyle, we realize that sometimes a 43-foot rig can limit certain places where you can go and travel. And my wife has been enamored with the idea of getting a second RV for the family, a smaller RV for us to be more nimble. She loves the idea of a Class B, but we're toying with it, maybe a Class B or a Class C, because it's hard to sleep 5 people in a Class A, maybe a B+, but we're struggling with that right now. She's looking on RV Trader last night while we were in bed at different RVs. So I think in time we will definitely add that second, smaller, more nimble RV, just to give us more options of where we want to go as well.
Yeah, I love that. We are in a similar position where we had a Class A motorhome, 36-foot, big, bulky thing. You're always calling ahead to these different campsites, and they're saying, well, we don't have a spot big enough. And so, yeah, we're now in a Class C motorhome driving from East Coast to West Coast, and we are loving it. Tons of space. We could just pack up and go. No issues getting into any campsites. Everyone can fit a 29-footer. So
and they have a king size bed. So we got one. We got one of those for you.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, for as a weekend or as a weekend warrior or doing some shorter trips, it is a little bit smaller. And I know we don't have 3 children as of yet, but it can sleep comfortably. I would say 8. Even 10 if you really want to squeeze some people in, because we have the jackknife sofa, we have the dinette that goes down, and then you have the overhead cabin that sleeps a couple people as well. So it's pretty spacious for the amount of square footage that it has.
Yeah. So wait, I got to ask. When you got that 43-foot rig and you're towing a Suburban, were you guys tailgating with that rig? And were you backing it into those tiny, tight spaces with barbecues flying all over?
Yeah, right.
Come on. If you don't tailgate with your RV, you're missing out on a huge part of life. Now, for 20-something years, I played football, high school, college, pro, never got an opportunity to tailgate. But when I retired, I discovered maybe the best part of football, and that is the tailgate. And yes, I love having my rig with me tailgating. It is the perfect part of tailgating. You've got your own bathroom. You've got your rig there. I've slept over it after the game at night, so you don't have to deal with the traffic afterward. There's so many advantages to having your RV as part of your tailgate. I'm sure we'll go over a couple of those pretty soon.
Keith, I have a lot of questions about this Class A, because in a couple of weeks I'm getting into a Class A. I've driven a Class C for years. I've been in the toy boxes, and hey. But for those folks that are tuning in right now and thinking about maybe going a little bit bigger, and that happens a lot when you start small, you want to go bigger. Sometimes you know, like you were saying with Tia, you guys started big and now she wants to go a little bit smaller. What was the first thing you learned driving your Class A that said, look, when I tell somebody that's getting into a Class A for the first time, this is what they need to know?
That's a great question, and I'll take it from the aspect of a couple, because we're a married couple.
Sure,
my wife and I. You have to get to know each other and trust each other, particularly when you're getting to a campsite and backing up or going somewhere. You've got to trust your co-pilot, is what I always tell my wife, and I tell my kids, because when they sit in that chair, that co-pilot chair, I said, you're my co-pilot. If I need you as an extra set of eyes or ears, you have to be aware. So I think that is the first thing, is practice with your rig, go to an empty parking lot and get comfortable with your turning radius, how to back up, how to avoid things, get comfortable with it. And then whoever your partner is when you travel, trust that person. You know, one of the greatest things about the RV community is they're so friendly and so helpful. It's nothing pulling a campground if you're struggling for you to have 2 or 3 people come over and assist you. But we've got it. My wife and I've got it. And I think one of the greatest things that gives me joy when we're going to a campground is when my wife is behind the wheel of this big 43-foot RV towing the Suburban, and you just see the jaws drop of so many people to see she's driving and you're out there directing her to stop. So I think it goes to that combination of knowing your rig, practice your rig, and then trust your co-pilot.
I love that. That's a great example. And Tiffany, you're going to have children soon.
Yes.
They have a child on the way. And so the kids getting in there the first time, how is it as an adjustment as parents with the kids in the back and getting all that settled in?
You know, the one thing that's missing from our RV is bunk beds. That was our one regret. Our Class A did not have bunk beds, and that's something we've toyed with back and forth. Do we trade in? Do we buy another one? Do we try to do a conversion side? Our kids who have their own room in our house, whenever we go on any kind of extended trip, the minute we get back, they have to all sleep in the same room. They love being together. Wow. And I think that's one of the things that I didn't realize in RV. You figure the space is small and you're going to be fighting and on top of each other. Well, and with 3 boys, you always have the wrestling and the fighting, but it's not malicious. It brings them closer together. It's brought our whole family closer together. So I think it's a huge benefit. It was a plus. My boys absolutely love being in the RV. Shoot, when we haven't traveled, I brought it to our house to do some arranging. And can we sleep in the RV? I'm like, it's just in the driveway. So can we sleep in the RV, Dad? I mean, they just love it. So it just brings a smile to my face. I think most kids will have a great time in it, and most families will.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I feel like because there is no place to run when you're fighting, besides like maybe the opposite end of the couch, like you have to deal with any of your quarrels right there and then and be very present. And I love that the kids are learning those soft skill sets like at such a young age. I feel like that's something, you know, it's not really taught in school and like sometimes it is at home, but you know, when you have that certain space and that certain experience, I think it's going to make them into the most amazing leaders down the road.
Absolutely. And that RV is a huge responsibility. And so teaching your kids like you have to, hey, you have to be aware, this is a serious situation. We're backing a 43-foot RV into a tiny spot. Like, you know, anything could happen. So, yeah, like Tiffany said, giving them those soft skills, teaching them all the lessons on the road, I think there's nothing better.
All right, Keith, I got to go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, and you're absolutely right, because there's times I just take the boys by myself. So my 11-year-old has to be the one to help me back into sites when needed. And I think, you know, one of the proudest moments as a dad is you can almost see him stand taller after he's helped guided me in. That responsibility is a really positive thing for our children and allow them to grow up and take on that responsibility.
And that's one of the things, Keith, that we've watched you over the years with your videos that we've seen, especially this year, is the way you bring your family element in, the way you have everybody doing each individual thing. I would like 3 things for somebody that's like, because listen, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed sometimes. I've been in the Class A's, I've sat in the seat, I've driven it, but there's so much I feel involved. Is it overwhelming at first, or can you give me 3 things that I really need to check on when I get in and I start my journey for the RV in the Class A?
Well, it's not unusual for it to be overwhelming at first. We bought our first RV, Class A used. We had never driven a Class A before. We test drove it on a Friday, went back to the dealership on Saturday, purchased it, picked it up Sunday morning, and drove from Atlanta to New Jersey to visit family the next day.
Wow.
And we didn't know anything we were blind. I mean, the walk they give you at RV dealerships are fine, but you always forget 90% of the stuff that you learn. So, and we had major issues, repair issues. Our AC's breaking down on the way up, AC's breaking down on the way back. We had to drive back from New Jersey in the middle of summer to Atlanta with no working AC whatsoever. And it didn't break us. So remember that we on our first trip. But I remember that RV. I was white knuckled going through Charlotte, in traffic, not understanding my RV. So I think my best 3 tips are, again, relax. Once you buy your RV, take it on what I consider a shakedown trip. And it doesn't matter if you camp in your own backyard or you camp on the lot of the RV dealership where you purchased it. Camp at a Camping World if you want. Just spend a night or 2 in your RV and learning your systems, because there's a lot to learn, whether it be your heating systems, your electrical systems, just opening and closing slides or hearing beeps or lights. What are they?
What a great idea.
Take some time where you don't have the pressure of your traveling, where you're in the safety of it. And if you need to run back in and talk to your dealer, or you can, and get those questions answered. So that would be my number 1 tip is really get to know your RV. And with that, when you do your walkthrough, take notes, take video so you can refer back to it. And then leverage the RV community would be number 2. Good Sam, Camping World, there's RV blogs out there. There's so many places where if you have a question, you can go get a quick answer from this great, great community. That to me is the best part of RVing, is that you have a inclusive community who is willing to help everybody and anybody. I mean, we've had our issues in the past, and anytime we've had an issue, I've had at least 2 or 3 other campers come up and say, "Hey, what's going on? Can I help you?"
That's amazing.
That would be number 2, and then number 3, a little planning goes a long way with a Class A. Okay, I'm a big planner. Some people just go by the wind, left and right, wherever it takes them. That's not me, not when you have a 43 Class A. I like to plan out months in advance where we're going to travel. I like to research the campgrounds and know I have a spot when I pull in. So if you don't mind researching and planning, add that to your list there.
I love it. That's perfect. And thank you so much, because videotaping the instructions, that's so good for me. I have a lot of things I'm excited about. Like you said, I want to get in it. I want to just go, but I know the one thing that you really said, and Caleb, maybe you guys did this with your first time with your Class A, get in and have like a local trip where you, even if it's camping in your own driveway or just going through the motions of everything, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first got our RV, we went straight to Newport Dunes, parked it in a spot. We were there for a long extended weekend, and it was like YouTube everything. Go on campingworld.com. Find a blog post. Look at this. How do we do this? And I feel like we've been in this, for 2.5 years, and we're still learning. It's like a never-ending process. So
absolutely, and again, to attest what Keith says, everyone's so friendly on the campground. And when we were struggling, we didn't even know how to plug in the power. Like, we were so scared to flip the switch. We thought we were going to electrocute ourselves. So we literally stared at the power box like this for about, I don't know, a good solid 20 minutes, like going back and forth, who's going to do it? And a neighbor came over, and it was like midnight, and he was walking his dog, and he's like, are you guys okay? And we're like, we just want to make sure we're not going to blow ourselves up. Do you know how, like, do we just flip the switch? And he was just laughing with us, and he came over, and he actually flipped it on for us. He goes, see, it's nothing really, that scary. And then, again, that long weekend, we had so many other people come up to us, and we went up to them, and yeah, the camaraderie is just amazing on the campground. So,
well, I keep going back to this tailgating experience of yours. I love busting out the barbecue. I love having a good time, bringing the toys out. Tell us some of your favorite tailgating memories and some of the must-haves while tailgating.
Okay, I've got some good ones, and I'll give you 2 quick ones. Maybe my first tailgating experience. I went back to my college that I graduated and played with. Iowa State University.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And it was my first big tailgate. You know, I was retired from the NFL at that point. I was having a slight reunion with some of my college teammates, and walking through the tailgate was an unbelievable, mind-blowing experience. Again, first time. Obviously, I played football for 25 years, but I hadn't tailgated. And in Iowa, one of the big treats is what's known as an Iowa chop, which is a pork chop 2 inches thick, about that big on a stick. Think about a T-bone steak. And I went to somebody's tailgate, and they gave me one. I had one in one hand, one in the other, and walking around just chomping on this, meeting people. It was just an unbelievable experience. I think that's when I fell in love with the idea. And that was before I had an RV. You know, visiting RV after RV in the parking lot because they're huge was one of those catalysts that kind of set the seed in my mind that, RV and tailgate go together. Now, my second one is obviously more personal. My son, my oldest son, who graduated college in May, he was playing high school football in Florida, and his team was going to the state championship game. So it was going to be at Florida International University. So I brought our RV to the parking lot, spent the night before the game in the parking lot in my RV, and then we had our pregame tailgate party. We had 100-something people surrounded my RV from the school. We're barbecuing. We had 6 different barbecue stations. Because I was hosting, I just got to enjoy it. I didn't have to man a grill. And then to go into that stadium and watch my son's team win the game. Oh, that'll be forever seared in my mind. Giving him a hug after the game. I mean, it was just the whole combination of the tailgate, the great food, the friends, football, family. It was the perfect setting. And it just completely sold me on the power of RVing. And one key to that is it does matter who wins or loses the game if you have a personal stake in it. But when you don't, as long as you got good food, good friends, a great RV, tailgating is wonderful.
Oh. Did y'all catch that reference when he said
seared?
Memory will be seared in there? Well, like you're talking about pork chops, you're talking about searing. Mike, final question for you on the tailgating part would be, Keith, did you ever find yourself having issues getting into a tailgating space? Because I know that can be difficult when you have all those people to get there early. How was that?
Well, that's a great question, and that goes back to the planning stage of RV travel, especially when you have a big rig of Class A. Is when I've tailgated at college games and even my professional games, they typically open the parking lot for RVs well before they open it to general public. So get there early. First of all, check with your stadium where you're going to, whether it be a high school stadium, college stadium, or professional stadium, to see what time the RVs can arrive. If you arrive early, you typically don't have a problem. I have never arrived on the tail end where you're really navigating through, but that's also the reason why we're considering that smaller RV to be just more nimble and kind of eliminate that whole process, because life, you can run late. As much as you plan, you can run into a problem where you have an issue and you're running late and then you're dealing with the traffic. So it can be a problem. It hasn't been for me personally. And the college games that I tailgate, I love how colleges allow you to come maybe a day before the game. So you arrive early, you set up, you get comfortable. Nice. And then with an RV, unlike in a car, you're in no rush to leave. You've got your TV, you've got your bathroom, you've got your home away from home right there with you. So I can wait 4 or 5 hours. I can watch the late games on TV. We can enjoy. We can go back for seconds on whatever we grilled. We're in no hurry because we got our RV.
And we talk a lot about football. I'm actually excited to get to the NASCAR races as well, because I've done a lot of RVing at NASCAR races, but never in a Class A. I've done the Class C, and we're looking forward to that. Well, listen, I have certainly learned a lot, and I can't tell you how much it means to have you as part of our show today. And we're so excited about your pick that you have, and we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit.
Yeah, we are really thrilled on the choice you did. Because we've been driving in it for the last 3 weeks.
Honestly, I'm sold with this whole tailgating, and I'm waiting for this pandemic to be over to start getting out and grilling with you. We're going to pull right up next to you.
I know.
Whether if you're in your Class A, Class B, Class C, you let us know where you're at, and we'll be there.
Keith and Tia Sims from the Soulful RV family, thank you so much for sharing your lives with us and allowing us to go across the country with you.
With the Camping World Best Price Guarantee, we'll beat any competitor price by $500 guaranteed, or write you a check for $1,000.
I will never lose a deal over price, ever, and I guarantee it.
Learn more today at campingworld.com.